Hi everybody, this is Joshua Kirk back with you guys once again on YouTube, and now it's time for episode 30 of Album of the Day, in which, this is the 6th Saturday morning when I'm doing a review. I'm gonna keep doing the same thing I've been doing for the last 5 weeks. I'm gonna be doing a review, a weekly review, and a weekly album review. And I'm gonna do a weekly album review every Saturday morning, because, I really like to do reviews and want to keep doing them, don't want to have a bunch of layoffs. So that's the reason why, I decided, to do a review every Saturday morning, so all of you people out there that watch my videos can all stay tuned for whatever videos may be coming along the way. Today's artist is a group that I'm pretty sure all of you know. A group that, a whole lot of people, like a truckload of people, have requested me to review a bunch of times on my channel. I looked at my discussion comments and saw a lot of people, telling me to check out this band, to buy their albums, and to review them. So all you fans out there, get excited, because today's review is for the one and only Radiohead. Radiohead, they're a group that have really been around for a long time, who, really have been, a band that, if you're really into music, chances are you probably know who Radiohead are. If you really like experimental, inventive, and very crafty and music, well then chances are Radiohead are probably one of those bands that that kind of does that kind of thing. They started out as kind of a basic British rock thing with their first album, Pablo Honey, and then kind of evolved into more alternative, kind of electronic sound when they released The Bends in 1995, and their first hit single was the song Creep off of Pablo Honey. And they've also had a lot of other hits like High and Dry, Fake Plastic Trees, Just, My Iron Lung, Street Spirit Fade Out. And then in 1997 they came out with OK Computer, which is considered one of the greatest albums of all time by most critics, including singles like Paranoid Android and Karma Police. Which includes singles like Paranoid Android, Karma Police, No Surprises, and Lucky. And then in 2000 they came out with the album, which was kind of the first album they made that was really what Radiohead wanted to do, which was Kid A in 2000. They were kind of a band that was kind of tired of, their record label insisting that they make a certain sound, and they just wanted to make their own unique sound that was kind of electronic based. So that's why they released Kid A, which I know lots of people were a bit alienated when they released Kid A, but it is pretty critically acclaimed, because it seems a majority of the radio fans really, really like it and kind of consider it their classic Radiohead album. Then following that in 2001 was Amnesiac, which was recorded pretty much the same time Kid A was. It had a little more piano, it was a more jazz-based record. And then in 2003 they released Hail to the Thief, which, was another album of theirs that was very crafty and had lots of different instruments in it too. For example, Johnny Greenwood playing things like guitar, and On Does Marchinaut, which is an electronic thing, and Glockenspiel, etc., all that stuff. For about 4 years, Radiohead hadn't really released a new album, but they've been on tour and recording and working on new material constantly, and I'm going to review the album that was born out of all of that. Released on October 10th, 2007. The album is called In Rainbows. In Rainbows, let me think about it. I think this is Radiohead's 7th album. 7 albums, that's quite a lot of material. But Radiohead's been around for a while, so it totally makes sense. It's still, to this day, they're putting out new albums and constantly working on stuff. Like, they've worked on this album for about 2 years. They've worked on it since, like, they started on this in early 2005 and then finished in, like, mid-2007. And that's a lot of work for a band that, you know, obviously, I find that the more time that a band spends on an album, the less forced it seems, and the more focused it seems, because this is really a band working hard on this album, and not really a band trying to crank out an album in just a few weeks. Instead, it's just an album that's been constantly worked on. The band has, like, you know, been, like, writing it, and Tom York and Johnny Greenwood have been doing, like, acoustic versions of these songs. Like, I forgot to mention the lineup of Radiohead. Tom York is the lead singer, and he also plays guitar and a little piano too. Johnny Greenwood plays guitar and keyboards and lots of other things too, including an Ondas Martinat, which is some sort of keyboard instrument or something. Ed O'Brien plays guitar and sings a little backup vocals. Colin Greenwood plays bass, and Phil Selway plays drums, and sometimes sings backup vocals. Like, if you go to their website and look up the lineup for Radiohead, you'll kind of see that. Anyway, here's a cover of this album. Let me say I really dig the artwork on this album. Really psychedelic looking. Some people may not know exactly what this is on the artwork, and I don't really know what's on the artwork either, but it looks cool either way. Anyway, here's the cover of it. Spine, the other side, the top, the bottom, and the back. And the songs on here are 15 Step, Body Snatchers, Nude, Weird Fishes / Arpeggi, All I Need, Faustarp, Reckoner, House of Cards, Jigsaw Falling Into Place, and Videotape. And this is on TBD Records, which I don't know what that label is. Probably is Radiohead's own record label or something. Because it's like maybe the first and only CD on that label, because obviously in reality the label that Radiohead has been signed to, like in the early days, they were signed to Parlophone, which has been the label for the Beatles and all that. And seems they moved to, I don't know, they probably moved to Capitol Records or XL or something like that, whatever. But, like, you know, there's a couple of spines here, but I just call them side. But I just called one of the spines a spine, and the other one a side, but, you know, it doesn't really make any difference. And this is kind of weird album packaging, a little bit. Like, it's kind of a foldable that looks like this. And anyway, there's like, looks like a couple of stickers. There's like what looks like a sticker with the full track listing on it. And then a sticker with like the rainbows thing that you see on the album cover. And then it's got a booklet here, and it's got the lyrics with lots of cool artwork in here. And then there's the liner notes right there. And then the CD comes in this little sleeve here. And there's the CD itself. There it is, which has track listing and rainbows and everything. as well as the TBD Records logo. And speaking of Radiohead, I do also have a copy of OK Computer here by Radiohead. Great album, which is a great album, and Rainbows is really great too. And gonna try and put back everything in this case together, because it's kind of a weird foldable thing, which may annoy some people, but doesn't annoy me, because I'm fine with the packaging being like this. This is actually kind of cool, a little foldable where you get all your little materials and fun stuff out. So anyway, that's In Rainbows by Radiohead. And now let's talk about the tracks on In Rainbows. In Rainbows is, like, in my opinion, and probably to other people, like, one of Radiohead's best albums. Like, it seems OK Computer, Kid A, and In Rainbows are the 3 albums by Radiohead that really people are just crazy for, where critics were just all, where, like, a bunch of fans, where, some critics were probably all like, ugh, this is kind of weird, but fans were like, yeah, this is awesome. Like, So yeah, I'm reviewing this, and I'm dedicating it to and I'm dedicating it to a bunch of Radiohead fans out there, like, because I know there's a lot of people out there that really like music, that really do love Radiohead, so I'm basically doing this review for a couple of reasons. One, I really like the album, and 2, a lot of people keep requesting me to review Radiohead, so I'm going to give them what they want, finally. So, track number 1 on here is called 15 Step, and it starts out with this little drum machine thing that's just really catchy and sort of tells you, just kind of bob your head a little bit. It's not like a crazy dance song, with just the drum machine on it is really cool and catchy, and it just opens the song, and it just, kind of gets you excited for the album right away, pretty much. And then coming in, there's Tom York's vocal, really catchy, like kind of scatty vocal. And then coming in, there's Phil Selway's drums, and then there's Phil Selway's drums coming in, and then there's the nice little, smooth guitar riff coming in, and then there's a few, like, crazy elements going on that really kind of add an interesting attention to detail to the song. Coming in, there's like a little bit of, there's this weird little synthesizer thing in the background, and then this children's choir doing these little hey shouts in the background. And then coming in, there's the nice little, like, keyboard thing, sounds kind of like maybe an electric piano or a synthesizer, chord, like, chopped up, and then, played backwards on a kind of, like, there's, like, a keyboard part in here that kind of sounds like it's, like, chopped up, using a laptop, using, like, the keyboard riff in here sounds like it's being chopped up, using a laptop here. Top on here. And it's sort of a song talking about, like, relationship with, like, like, sometimes we do have that one person in our lives that just kind of, they used to be doing fine and all, but then they kind of, lost that, ability, and we kind of wonder to themselves, to ourselves, what the heck happened to that person? Track number 2 is called Body Snatchers, and this is kind of a basic rock and roll song. Not like Pablo Honey rock, but rather kind of a little more heavy and distorted, kind of punk rock sort of thing going on here, with, like, lots of amazing guitar noise going on, and this weird little, like, keyboard thing or something in the background. It kind of sounds like a synthesized choir or something, kind of like a choir program with a synthesizer or something. synthesizer or something. And it's sort of a song about, like, not understanding how some people just like to live a lie sometimes. Like, there are people out there that do tend to live a lie a little bit. Track number 3 is a song called Nude. And this is actually a song, it's a pretty old song. Radiohead started playing it live a little bit in 1998, but it didn't really have a name yet. And, it was kind of a song that was kind of kept hush-hush for a while. But, around the time in Rainbows was recorded, they gave, like, Nude eventually became the title of the song, and it eventually became part of this album. And what do you say? This is really a beautiful track. Like, it's just a beautiful, slow-tempoed kind of song, which starts out with, like, some what sounds like vocal parts that are, like, chopped up and programmed using a laptop or something like that. And then coming in, there's the beautiful string arrangements, as well as some nice guitars and some nice little guitars in there, driven by these drums, and I think the strings really added something great to the song. Like, I think without the strings in this song, the song would have been lacking that kind of atmosphere and euphoric sound. So I think the strings are perfect for the sound. So I think strings are the perfect thing to add to this song to give it this really big, huge, orchestral, euphoric sound. And it's sort of a song about how people just tend to, have really bad ideas, and they do tend to, kind of ruin their soul a little bit because of what their dirty minds may be thinking. Track number 4 is called Weird Fishes, Arpeggi, and this song kind of reminds me of, like, Wilco a little bit, old Wilco. Not like alt country Wilco, because I don't think Radiohead would think about doing that. But rather, kind of, it sounds a little bit like Yankee Hotel Foxtrot or Ghost is Born, and maybe Sky Blue Sky a little bit. That Wilco album a little bit, which kind of is a coincidence because Wilco's Sky Blue Sky has come out the same year as Radiohead's and Rainbows, the album that I'm reviewing. So it kind of reminds me a little bit of that with the guitar and the drums. And then, by the end there's like kind of all this, weird kind of noise going on, which is kind of like, there's kind of all these weird synthesizer noises going on in the background to accompany the guitar, bass, drums, and vocals thing, as well as some nice little piano work on there. Like, I can't really remember if there's some piano in the song or not. I'm gonna have to check, but if there is, nice. Track number 5 is called All I Need, and track number 5 is called All I Need, and this is a song that's kind of a more kind of, sleek, slow-tempoed, electronic-based song with this nice little doo-doo bass line on the synthesizer on this one. And then coming in, I think I hear like a piano and a glockenspiel and some strings in the background. And then by the end, it's kind of this odyssey of synthesizer noise, accompanied by some nice piano work on here. Track number 6 is called Fostarp, and this is a song that's stripped down. That's kind of a stripped down, acoustic track with basically just nothing but acoustic guitars, which is basically just nothing but kind of a bare bones mix of acoustic guitars accompanied by a nice little string section, along with Tom York's vocals in there too. Yeah, this is a good song. I think the stripped down option was a pretty good choice, especially because if you went on with just pumped up tracks the whole time, the album could have been fun, but at the same time it could have been boring if you just made it all just pumped up tracks. In fact, I don't think this album is a very pumped up album. The first 2 tracks are pretty pumped up. The rest kind of are a little more kind of, tracks that you can just listen to and think of it as like just a little, like you can just think of this album as just a little journey that it's taken you on, instead of just something that's getting you pumped up and bobbing your head the whole time. So I think this song was a pretty good choice of like you know, like this song, it does feel a little bare bones, but at the same time it's a nice choice. The Radiohead decided to put a little stripped down track in the middle of this record. Track number 7 is called Reckoner, and it starts out with kind of these atmospheric drums accompanied by some cool little tambourine work. And then coming in, there's the guitar, and there's some nice little piano work in here, as well as kind of a weird little falsetto going on Tom York's voice. And yeah, this song's it's a pretty cool song, you know, really atmospheric and cool, and just, you know, I really like this one a lot. Track number 8 is called House of Cards, and this is a good song, but you know, this track kind of feels a little weird for me. Like for example, the echo on Tom York's voice, it can seem a little out of place on here, and there's this weird little guitar riff where you can't really tell if it's a guitar or just weird distortion on a violin or something like that. Like, it's kind of a guitar, but it sounds more like a string section with the weird little pedal thing going on with it. But, you know, it's still a good song, just, you know, the atmospheric elements do tend to be a little thrown together on here. Together, too. And the song definitely does feel a little long, too. Track number 9 is called Jigsaw Falling Into Place, and this is a song that kind of succeeds recording-wise. It starts out with just guitars, bass, and drums. Then slowly coming in, there's the synthesizers and strings, and the vocals. And then eventually the song tends to build up and get a little more intense by the end. Like by the end, you know, Tom York gets pretty intense with his vocals on here, just, you know, kind of belting it out a little bit, I must say. Like, and the song is like very wordy and fast and catchy. Like, this is probably the wordiest song on the whole record, which kind of makes sense because there are some songs on this album that don't really feel very wordy, but this song, on the other hand, lots of words in it. So yeah, it made sense that they kind of made it a fast, catchy, up-tempo kind of, you know, experimental rocker, I should say, maybe? Yeah. And then the closing track on here is track 10, Videotape. And this is a piano ballad, like a melancholy piano ballad. With this beautiful little work on the piano. And then the piano is basically just kind of accompanied by nothing more than Tom York's vocals, a little bit of harmonies in there, probably from Ed O'Brien and Phil Selway, and as well as and the drum parts of the song kind of sound like one of Phil Selway's drum parts, you know, chopped up and programmed using a laptop, so the drums on the song are a little different, and that's about it that's in the song. But this is kind of a melancholy ballad, but at the same time kind of hopeful. Like, this is a song where Tom York says, like, this is for the good days. Like, this is kind of a melancholy song about, like, you know, this is kind of a melancholy song kind of about dying and going to the pearly gates and all that, but at the same time it's, you know, kind of hopeful too. So production-wise, the album is very well crafted. Every song on this album just kind of has this little attention to detail that just intrigues and enthuses me. Like, every time I listen to an album and every time I listen to instruments, I get excited because, you know, I am a guy who loves instruments and loves to listen carefully to songs and kind of, you know, analyze what instruments I hear. So for this album, there are a few kind of, you know, off-task moments on this album. it's still a great album. So I think I'm feeling an 8 out of 10 on this one. So anyway, that was my review of Radiohead's and Rainbows. If you really enjoy this album too, just let me know what you think of it in the comments section. But anyway, this is Joshua Kirk, signing off.